Hi, it's Summer and welcome to the vlog. I mainly wanted to start this because I need to be held accountable for a couple of arcs that I really need to get to. I did not get to them as fast as I needed to, and they've already been published, so I really need to finish them and put my reviews up for them. One of them is a poetry collection and one of them is a historical fiction kind of fantasy adventure. The poetry collection is called Good Grief by Brianna Pastor. The main themes are trauma and grief. I actually started this one last night. I'm not very far into it though. Poetry usually goes by pretty quickly though, so I feel like I could probably finish this today if I wanted to. I just barely finished another poetry collection that was an arc called Instructions for Traveling West by Joy Sullivan. I really liked that one. I loved the writing style and the prose. And since I just barely finished that one and am reading another poetry collection right after, I kind of can't help but compare the two a little bit. And so far with Good Grief, I've only read like a couple of poems. So far I'm not liking it as much as Instructions for Traveling West. The writing style seems a little bit more simple and repetitive, whereas Instructions for Traveling West felt a little bit more deep and eloquent and not so obvious. Like I said though, I'm only a couple of poems in, so there's a lot of time for my opinions to change. And then the other book that I'm going to be reading is Empire of Shadows by Jacqueline Benson. I heard about this one from my friend Lindsay. Even though I'm really enjoying it, I feel like I've been having a hard time just like sitting down to like read for long periods of time. I'll just pick it up here and there before I'm going to bed at night. And I feel like me reading like that is doing it a disservice. I don't think that I'll finish it like in a day or anything like that, but I could probably finish it in a couple of days if I really kind of like set aside time to do it and like set my mind to it. The description says, "Nice Victorian ladies don't run off to find legendary lost cities." Like the little blurb said, this is set in the Victorian era, which is a time in history that I really love to read about, and we're following the main character Ellie. An ancient map kind of falls into her lap, and there's this villain character that also wants this map, so they're kind of racing to this lost city. He's willing to kill her to get her out of the way and get his hands on the map and get to the city first. And one of the only ways that she's going to be able to make it to the city if she has like a guide that takes her through the jungle and stuff. That's where Adam comes in. He's a surveyor and a guide of that area, and she needs his help to go through this uncharted part of the jungle to go find this lost city. I am having just the absolute best time reading this book. It's so fun and just different from anything that I've read. It's giving me a tiny bit of the same vibes as Emily Wilde, even though the writing style isn't similar. The kind of like historical fiction mixed with a little bit of fantasy is kind of what's giving me the same vibes. Ellie also kind of seems similar in personality to Emily. So far it's this really fun, a little bit silly adventure, but it does feel like it has high stakes because Ellie is literally being like hunted by this guy that also wants the map. I'm also already just like so in love with the dynamic between Adam and Ellie. I've loved all of their interactions so far. Also, the scene where they meet is so ridiculous and funny. Also, I just barely read a scene and it had the same kind of vibes as the like, "who did this to you" trope, which is just amazing. And I love that. I don't remember if I've said already, but I'm 25% of the way through this one, and they're about to go enter the jungle. I'm pretty sure that Lindsay compared this book to the Jungle Cruise ride at Disneyland, and even though I'm not in the jungle yet in the story, I 100% get those vibes. Also like Indiana Jones a little bit, and it is giving me life. I love anything with ancient civilizations, but I especially love ancient civilizations when it has the kind of like historical fiction element to it. Like I love modern day archaeologist stuff, but I love stuff like The Mummy and Indiana Jones. I haven't seen it yet, but I feel like Death on the Nile is also kind of in that time period. Those aren't considered Victorian era like this one is, but I feel like you get what I'm saying. Like that era of people like going on adventures and stuff like that and looking at ancient civilizations, I'm obsessed. So I feel like this book is so perfect for me, and I haven't really seen a whole lot like it so far. So I'm so excited to keep reading. I was just thinking like, oh, it's too bad this is an arc because I'd love to have the audiobook, but it's literally out now. So maybe I could get an audiobook for it, so then it would help me be able to read it a little bit faster. I do need to get a lot of client work done today, so that would actually be great. Maybe I'll try to find an audiobook for it. That also does kind of bring me to my other plans for the day. I thought it would be fun to make this kind of like a daily vlog as well as like a reading vlog, so I'll kind of include other things that I'm up to in it. So other than working on some client work, I need to go to the grocery store because I'm going to a Mother's Day brunch tomorrow with my mother-in-law, my future sister-in-law, and her mom, and her grandma, and then one of their friends because they're all in the same friend group. I think I've already met everyone that's going to be there, and it's a really fun group of ladies. They didn't ask me to like bring any like food items or anything, so I thought it would be kind of fun to like make little mini flower bouquets to bring for everyone. So I wanted to go to the grocery store to get some flowers, I might need to go to the dollar store to get jars to put the flowers in. I think while I'm out, I'm also gonna get lunch. I would love if I could finish both of these books by the end of the day tomorrow, because the day after tomorrow, I'm actually heading up to the city that I used to live in that we just barely moved here from, because I have a doctor's appointment and I'm gonna be hanging with my cousin Allie, and I don't really want to be vlogging while I'm up there. I feel like it would just be too hectic. So I guess we'll kind of see what happens. Either I finish the books tomorrow or I skip a few days until I finish them later this week. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm gonna try to find that book on audio, and then I'm gonna head to the grocery store. I wasn't planning on filming a talking clip. I was just gonna get like some b-roll of me reading, but I have to talk about a couple of the poems that I've read in this collection. I'm flying through this collection. Right now I'm at 25% of the way through it, but it's not in a good way. I'm flying through it because it's the most like surface level generic poetry probably that I've ever read. I feel really bad saying that because I know that the person that wrote this, I know that it probably like meant a lot to them, and I'm really glad that they had poetry to turn to in such a dark time in their life, but I don't really feel like this should have been published. I know that's bitchy of me to say. Also, poetry is so subjective, so just because this collection isn't really working for me doesn't mean that it wouldn't work for someone else. A lot of these are just so short and so obvious that they really didn't need to be included in this collection. Poem number 14 says, "Your traumas are never indicative of who you are and how well you deserve to be loved." Which, like, yeah, that's true. Your trauma shouldn't define you or control how much you're loved or who loves you, but I feel like that's really obvious. Like, I don't know. But you know, that was just one poem. I was good to keep reading. And then poem number 19 says, "I came out of the womb crying, like most people do, except I just never stopped." Okay? Like, I know that they don't mean that literally, probably. Or maybe they're just saying that they've always been a sad person, or maybe that they've always felt deeply their whole life. But I'm like, that's not a poem. That's a sentence. Like, this didn't need to be included in this collection. I think normally I would try to DNF this, but since it's an arc and since it's going by so quickly, I think I'm just gonna keep reading. I feel bad that I'm not enjoying it and that I'm kind of like shit-talking it a little bit because I know that it's probably really personal to the person who wrote it, but I've just read way better poetry than this. Do you know what this collection feels like? It feels like if you asked AI to write poetry. That is 100% what this feels like. And again, I am so sorry. I feel like this collection could be really great if you're new to poetry and you just need something that has general themes that you could probably relate to and writing that's easily understandable. But as someone who's read a lot of poetry recently, this collection just isn't really giving me what I usually look for in a collection. Listen, I was gonna stop showing you the poems that I don't like. There are quite a few that I haven't shown you because I don't want to be like overly negative because I've already been really negative. 110. See, think again, love. What? Hate to break it to you, but that's not profound. I just really feel like this collection could have been edited down a lot. I have found some that I like, and I'm gonna read those to you in a minute once I've finished the collection. I'm so sorry, my AC is so loud. I'm at 96%, so I'm almost done. I'll come back and tell you the poems that I did like so that it's not completely negative. Okay, so I just barely finished Good Grief, and I have a handful of poems that I did enjoy from this collection, so I wanted to share those with you. Poem number 16 is a little bit of a longer one, but I really liked the first section of it. It says, "You are in every single thing you see, every single thing you touch, every life you pass through or step in. Once your energy has been placed there, nothing is ever exactly the same as it was." Poem number 28, I don't even know if I fully understand it, but I can tell that it's better than the other poems. Like, I can just tell that there's more depth to it. I don't want to read all of these out loud too because I feel like that'll just take forever, so I'll put up a picture or a screenshot so you can read it if you want to. I thought number 36 was a really powerful poem about abuse. Poem number 44 is one of the really short, simple poems, but I actually liked this one. It says, "I take great comfort in knowing there are even better versions of myself that I haven't hugged yet." And I thought that was really sweet. I really liked poem number 51. It has some French in it, and I know that I'll just butcher it if I try to read it, so I'll put a screenshot on the screen. And then my last favorite from the collection is poem number 83. It's kind of another like simple concept, but I felt like it had a good impact. "When I tell you that I love you differently than I have ever loved, what I mean is that I love you and myself at the same time." So there were a handful of good ones that I enjoyed, but out of more than 100 poems in this collection, those were the only ones that I really enjoyed. And like I said before, poetry is so subjective. I'm sure that there are some people that would give this collection 5 stars, but unfortunately, I am not one of those people. I think that if you're a fan of, I think her name is Amanda Lovelace or Ruby Kaur, you would probably like this collection. But if you didn't like this collection, or you don't think you'll like this collection, I would recommend the one that I just barely read before this, that I think I've already talked about, Instructions for Traveling West by Joy Sullivan. I would recommend anything by Kate Baer. Those authors also explore the same themes that are kind of talked about in Good Grief, but in a way that I enjoyed more, and with language that I enjoyed more. I feel bad that I didn't like it, and I feel bad that I have talked kind of mean about it, but also I just like needed to talk about it, so I don't know. It's pretty late. I have to get up early tomorrow for the Mother's Day brunch. I forgot to say, but I think that my flower bouquets turned out pretty cute. So I'm gonna go to bed so that I can wake up early tomorrow. I think I'll probably read a couple chapters of Empire of Shadows while I'm in bed, but I won't film any of it. But I will talk to you tomorrow. I just got back from the Mother's Day brunch and from going thrifting. This was my first time going to thrift stores in Vegas. I went to 2 Goodwills. I tried to get some clips of like shopping in there and stuff. It was my first time in a Goodwill because where I lived in Utah, they didn't have Goodwills there. And I have to say, I've heard people on TikTok say that Goodwill is really expensive for a thrift store, and it is. I thought that the thrift stores back in Utah were kind of bad with prices, but Goodwill is even worse. Like minimum for a clothing item, you're gonna pay $5, which is crazy to me. Like $5 for like a tank top or just a t-shirt, that's a crime. I'll keep going just to like see if there's anything that's like really worth it, but it was kind of discouraging. It didn't really make me super excited to like keep thrifting. The book section did have quite a few that I recognized, but I had either already read them or I wasn't interested. I only came home with 1 item. I almost came home with 2 because I was really tempted to get that swan plant pot that I got a clip of. It was so cute and like so coquette, but it was in kind of rough shape and it was $12. And I did a quick Google search and I could get a brand new swan planter for about the same price. So it wasn't really worth it to me. So I left that there, but I did get a sweater. It's this one that I tried on. It's this really cute wide neck cropped colorful sweater. Living in the desert, I don't know how much I'll be able to wear this, especially like right now, but I've seen sweaters like this going around. I think even this exact sweater. The brand is LA Hearts, which I'm pretty sure they sell at PacSun, and that's all I got. I think that I read a tiny bit of Empire of Shadows last night before I went to bed. It wasn't enough to really like count for anything though, and then I haven't read any more of it today yet. I do have more client work that I need to get done, so I think that I'm going to try to do some of that right now, and then I'll try to pick up my book after that. I just got out of the shower and I'm ready to sit down and get cozy and read more of my book. After the last clip that you saw, I read a little bit more in my book, and then last night I read like a lot more in my book. So right now I'm on chapter 16, which is 32%. I'm still having a great time. The story is just so cute and fun, and we are now officially in the jungle. The scene that's currently happening is kind of claustrophobic, and they just kind of made a little discovery. The majority of what I just read, though, has been Ellie and Adam, I think is his first name. In the story, she's just been calling him Bates, like recently. But the two of them have the best banter, the best chemistry. She's kind of uptight and serious, kind of like Emily Wilde. Not as much as Emily, though. And even though he takes like safety and like his job seriously, he's a lot more like playful, like Wendell and Emily Wilde. And I feel like I just love that dynamic, and I just love seeing them interact with each other. The majority of this book, I think, is just gonna be them like camping together, and I feel like it's just gonna make for the best forced proximity, and forced proximity is one of my favorite tropes. So I'm very excited to see what happens between them. They're both also kind of finally like admitting to themselves that they find the other attractive, but they haven't done anything about it yet. I'm really excited to keep reading though. I'll check back in at 50% though and give you a little update. I'm on chapter 23, which is technically 49% of the way through, but it's close enough, so I'm just gonna count this as my 50% update. I'm still having a really fun time. Lots of things in the jungle have been happening. The last little bit that I read though was a little bit slow, and it also just felt kind of dense because there was a lot of history that just kind of got info dumped onto us. I do think that the ancient history and like Mayan history is interesting, but it was just like a lot all at once. I feel like if all of this information is accurate, the author probably had to do a ton of research to write this book, which I think is really cool. Depending on how the last 50% of this book goes though, I feel like the part that I just read might be kind of pointless. I don't know for sure though. Also though, I think this is supposed to be a series, so maybe it will come into play in like later books, if not in this one. I'm kind of just like ready for things to get started back up again, and I think with this new chapter, it's going to. I don't know if I'm going to read more tonight, and I don't really know what other updates I'm going to do. I might hop on before the end of the book and give some thoughts, or I might just finish the book and give you my final thoughts. I'm not really sure yet, so I will just talk to you later when I have another update. It's a few days later and I just barely finished Empire of Shadows. It was really, really good. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason that it's not a full 5 is because it did get a little bit slow at the like 50, 60, 70% mark. It also might have just been like the mood that I was in while I was trying to read it. What really helped me kind of get through that and finish it was turning on the like text to speech thing on my iPhone. It was super easy, and I'm 100% going to be doing that in the future with like ebooks and arcs and stuff that I don't have an audiobook for. 10 out of 10 recommend. It was so nice. As long as you don't mind like Siri reading to you. It's pretty stilted and like there's no like inflection or anything like that. But for me, it totally worked, especially when I was like reading along with it. The section of the book that I was worried about like if it actually mattered or not to the story, it did. It kind of came back into it. So that was really nice. What I was mainly kind of having a problem with were all of the people that I was having to keep up with at a certain part of the book. And honestly, for a lot of it, I just started like skimming just to kind of like get to the good part that I could tell was coming up later on in the book. All of the ancient civilization things that were happening, amazing. 10 out of 10. I was obsessed with those scenes. It was also just like so fun to like see the progression of Adam and Ellie's relationship. They are so cute. I love them so much. I think that I've said at other times in this video that this book is like silly, but it's also like really cute and wholesome, and it does have enough grit to it to not be like corny. Oh, hi, come here. Howie wanted to be held. He's such a big baby. Anyway, I loved it. I had a great time. I definitely recommend it if you like ancient civilizations, books with Indiana Jones vibes, themes of feminism. I also read the author's note, and it sounds like there was a ton of research that went into this book, kind of like I thought. I just thought it was a really great author's note. And also they mentioned Olivia Atwater in the author's note, which I'm pretty sure is the same author as this book, which I also loved. I gave this one 5 stars. They also mentioned another Atwater, who I'm guessing is this person's partner, who also writes books, so I want to look more into what they've written. So that's kind of a cool little like bonus thing that I learned. That's going to be it for this video though. I can't think of an emoji for everyone to leave. Maybe leave a snake emoji, since this book reminded me a lot of Indiana Jones, and whenever I think of Indiana Jones I think of snakes. That's kind of a far-fetched reason for an emoji, but we're gonna go with it. So leave a snake emoji in the comments if you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
Appalachian sunrise.